days and announcing them on YouTube and Instagram. It's going to be awesome. So keep your eyes out for that if you entered that giveaway, the 50th episode giveaway. All right, let's roll right into it. So this past week, I launched an interview with Brady Miller, my friend Brady. And for those that don't know who he is, he's basically a professional hunter, author. He has a degree in biology. He's become a really good friend of mine. He works down at GOHUNT, which has also been a sponsor of the show, in Las Vegas. But he went to college in Montana and became a very prominent Western hunter over the last several years, specifically around mule deer. But he's just a good hunter and a really good guy. Statistically, it is the best podcast I've launched yet. It has the most downloads out of anything that I've launched. And I think it's really because the gloves came off. It was really, really authentic. And we talked for almost 2 hours, and honestly, I forgot we were doing a podcast. There were several things we talked about that are controversial, but it was just, I don't know. It just rolled really well. And he isn't afraid to say anything. You can watch the full interview on YouTube at the Altitude Show YouTube channel. There's obviously the audio versions out everywhere. So my 3 takeaways from my podcast with Brady Miller was, number 1, Brady has become known as a mule deer hunter. And in order to be among the best at anything, in this case, mule deer hunting, you have to have an incredible amount of focus and discipline. Now, I've said on this podcast before, and I still believe, I'm not trying to be the best in terms of comparing myself to other people at really anything I do. I'm trying to be my best version of myself in everything I do, meaning I don't just do one thing to be the best in the world at it. I've never been that way. I enjoy novelty too much. I like trying new things. I'm pretty good at several things, but Brady, he's good at several things too, but really he focuses most of his life's work at being the best mule deer hunter he can be. And I admire that when people do that. That takes a lot of discipline and sacrifice. I would be too distracted. In the example of hunting, I can't focus on one species. Elk is my favorite, but if someone invites me to go to frickin' Africa and hunt, I'm going to do it. Or if I love hunting everything from wild pigs to elk to everything in between. I'm going sheep hunting. Anything about hunting I like. Brady, on the other hand, he just wants to hunt mule deer. He doesn't really care too much for elk. He says elk bugles do nothing for him almost. He doesn't like the way elk look. He thinks mule deer are the sexiest thing on the planet. And that's it. Period. End of story. So I found that pretty interesting. Number 2 is Brady is one of these guys that's just a constant student. In the hunting industry, you get a lot of people out there that have huge egos that think they have nothing left to learn. It's an automatic red flag when I see folks like this. That tells me they actually don't know what the fuck they're talking about most of the time. There's an empty barrel in there. My dad said one time that an empty barrel makes the most noise. The ones that are the best at just about anything in life are always students, and they always have that mindset. There's always something more to learn, and Brady is an example of that. He's constantly studying ballistics and new areas and how to become a better field judger and all of the different things that go into being one of the best mule deer hunters on the planet. But also like policy, conservation. What can we do better? Our mule deer herds are struggling. And that was the last thing I was going to say. Number 3 would be he's a leader in the space, and being a leader sometimes means you need to say things that not everybody agrees with. In the podcast, he made a comment how he thinks the rifle Montana mule deer hunt should be taken out of the rut. Right now, you can hunt mule deer in Montana with a general tag all the way into late November, and which puts you smack dab right in the middle of the rut. And with a rifle and a mule deer aren't known for being the sharpest animal in the rut. They're very difficult to hunt the rest of the year, but when they're in the rut, they're pretty dumb. And with a rifle in your hands, and now with the new rifles that can shoot so far, is that a good or a bad thing? We get into it in the podcast. I'll spare you guys my opinion on it here. He thinks that season should be limited. It should go to a draw. The mule deer populations are struggling everywhere, from disease to habitat loss to human encroachment to over harvest. And we got to do something. So I would love to hear you guys' feedback on whether you agree with Brady or not. But I think in order to say things like that, you have to be a leader, because we can all just go around trying to tiptoe and not hurt people's feelings, but that doesn't do any good. So we had several moments like that where we were kind of talking about things that need to be talked about and airing them out. So I really enjoyed my conversation with Brady. Go check it out on YouTube or in the audio version, anywhere you listen to podcasts. All right. So